Are you considering applying to Stanford? Are you wondering what it takes in terms of grades, scores, extracurricular activities? Would it be helpful to have the example of a student who got in? I've got what you need. This is College Mentor Chris. I am a journalist and author turned college essay consultant. After working one-on-one with more than 300 students, I'm now offering online college essay workshops. If that might be of interest, there's information on my website, collegeessaymentor.com. For information about what it takes to get into Stanford, I'm going to be talking to Victor. If this interview is helpful and you would like more of the same, be sure to subscribe to College Mentor Chris. I am here talking with Victor. Victor, tell us where you're from and where you went to school.
Hi, Chris. My name is Victor. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. I went to the American International School there called Escuela Campo Alegre.
What sort of courses did you take as you went from ninth grade onward?
Yeah, from ninth grade onward, they're ninth, 10th grade, pretty standard classes, and then 11th and 12th, I did the IB program. In high school, in the IB program specifically, I took 4 HL classes. I took HL economics, math, physics, and language and literature, and then I took standard Spanish and chemistry.
So if someone was looking at your transcript, say at the end of junior year or whatever, what would they see? Are they seeing A's and B's? Are they seeing numbers? What does it look like?
So they're mostly numbers. So the IB is graded on a 1 through 7 scale, 1 being the absolute worst, 7 being the absolute best you can get. And overall, on the IB program, I got a 41 out of 45. I was actually predicted a little bit more than that, but due to certain complications in the country, etc., and a little bit of senioritis, I have to admit, that dropped a little bit. But for the most part, yeah, all 7s, a couple 6s in there.
Fair to say that you had very good grades and you were taking the IB, which is known as a pretty rigorous curriculum. Did you take the ACT or the SAT?
Yeah, I took the SAT and I took it twice. The first time I took it, I got a 1490. I believe I got 790 in math, 700 in reading, and then the second time I took it, I believe I got a 1510 with a 760 in reading, so it super scored out to 1550, and I think that's what colleges really pay attention to. So you could say it was a 1550 overall.
Okay, so your composite score, your best one was a 1510, but your super score was a 1550.
Yeah, exactly.
In my mind, that gets you serious consideration, but doesn't guarantee that you're in. If someone at Stanford or any other school was looking at your life, your activities, and trying to make a judgment of whether you'd be a good contributor, what kind of things did you do outside of the classroom, let's say at school and also outside of school?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say that during high school, there are 3 or so activities I was very involved with. I was probably involved with more, but there are 3 that I think were very important. The first was Model United Nations. So I started doing MUN when I was in 9th grade. I kept doing it in 10th grade, and I was consistently a part of this international conference called the Hague International Model United Nations, sort of like the largest student-run MUN conference in the world. And so when I first participated, I was a delegate. Then I applied to be like a moderator, a chair. For those of you that are familiar with MUN, that person's basically in charge of overseeing like a 200-person commission and saying X person talks now, whatnot. And then the final year that I participated, I was a deputy secretary general. So there are only 6 or so people that actually have that role that are in charge of sort of taking care of all the logistics, making sure chairs are in order for this 4,000 person conference. So that was cool. I also had another sort of like debate related activity I did in high school where I founded this sort of international debate league to determine the most talented debaters in the country that could participate in this international competition called the World Schools Debating Championship. And so what I did is I rallied together a group of my friends from other bilingual international schools, and we said, all right, let's get our our friends to compete, and then from these we can get like a solid team of Venezuelans to like jointly represent us at this prestigious competition abroad. So that was a large part of what I did in high school. And then finally, a lot of so like the service activities I did in high school related to English education. So I also founded this sort of group called the Educational English Opportunities Program, which is sort of like a sister school program between my school and more low-income school. And what we did is we took in kids sort of on a weekly basis to give them English lessons and whatnot. And it was very gratifying. I enjoyed all those activities very much.
And how was it? I mean, going to high school in Venezuela at a time of fairly serious social and economic trauma.
Yeah, that's definitely something that can't be overlooked. So you hit the nail on the head. For a large portion of my high school career, there were anti-government protests. When we had periods of time where, say, school was shut down because you had like tear gas floating in from like a nearby neighborhood where there were protests and whatnot, which was tough. And although it was difficult, I still managed to try to put my best foot forward, improve my community, which is something I'm passionate about.
Sure. Now, did some of that passion for Venezuela come through when you turned to writing essays for the Common Application?
Yeah, definitely. I think that when writing essays, it's very important to sort of craft a narrative. Like you want to tell admissions officers who you are as a person and why you do what you do. And say from the activities I did in high school, I think it was pretty evident that my underlying passion was working to the benefit of my troubled society. And so I definitely expressed interest in using my college education, these formative years at prestigious institutions, to go back and potentially do things like what I'd been doing in high school, but at a larger scale, to the extent that I could potentially create more impact and whatnot.
Could you tell me a little bit about your application process? Did you apply someplace early? Did you apply someplace regular?
Yeah. So I actually applied early to Harvard. I was very excited. I really wanted to get into Harvard, but I got deferred actually. So that kind of came as a buzzkill. Luckily, though, I'd been working on applications to other schools in the meantime. So I think overall I applied to 17 schools. So a lot of schools. I wanted to get into one I really liked, but I definitely applied to ones that I would definitely like consider attending if I got in. And yeah, some of the other schools I applied to, evidently Stanford that I ended up attending, Yale, Columbia, Wharton, Duke, USC, a bunch. But ultimately I felt like Stanford was the right choice.
So it sounds like you got into a lot of places. Where didn't you get in?
Right. So the places I got in, the places I was seriously considering potentially attending were Stanford, Yale, Wharton, Columbia, and then the Robertson program at Duke. Those were all very compelling choices. But at the same time, I didn't get into Harvard. I got deferred, and then I ended up getting rejected. And I didn't get into Princeton either. Princeton or MIT.
You went to the Stanford admissions office and were allowed to see your application.
I did go.
So what did you learn when looking at your application once you were already in?
Okay, I learned something very interesting. I learned is that, so I think Stanford, they try to be very obscure about with the information they try to give you, so they black out a lot of things. But I know they have like a ranking system wherein like they have a few categories or like scores, extracurricular, passion, whatever. I recall very precisely that in terms of test scores, I had 1 as a rank, and so that pretty much told me that there is kind of like I don't know if there's a cutoff, but so long as you get above like a generally good score, then that's sort of like a consideration that's out of the table. It all really depends on something else. And other than that, just from reading comments, what I really got back is that I think that my intent in my essays very clearly showed through. Like I think I did a good job of making my application pretty coherent, in that my activities were very related to what I wrote about, and I had this persona dedicated to like this particular end goal, and that my admissions officers kind of picked up on that and said like, oh, this is a very compelling kid. That's sort of what I learned.
Well, I think it's pretty cool that you had a goal and were able to see that your purpose was perceived and appreciated. So thank you so much for sharing that. And of course, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's all a pleasure. Thank you very much.
I hope the video was helpful. If you would like to be notified as I roll out future videos, be sure to subscribe to College Mentor Chris. If you're interested in online college essay workshops, check out my website, collegeessaymentor.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.